So guys, today we're going to talk about the Pixel 6a. This is such an awesome mid-ranger, and I usually don't cover a ton of mid-rangers, but this is one of those special mid-rangers, and I believe this one actually won like a best smartphone like award or something from MKBHD. I think it actually beat even the Pixel 7 Pro, which is pretty interesting. So this does use the classic, sensor that Google's been using, the older one. The 7 Pro has the newer one, but this one still came out on top. People still preferred these the shots on this one. I think this takes phenomenal photos for the price. So let's actually go ahead and jump into that. So it uses the classic sensor from all the older Pixel flagships. It's got a 12.2 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 4K 60, and then an 8 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 1080p 30. So again, nothing super impressive here when it comes to megapixels and stuff like that. But when you actually go out and take stills with this phone, it is extremely impressive the way the shots come out. Great dynamic range on here, really good color science on here. The ultra wide is pretty much in the same boat, takes really great shots. And I was just always really shocked when I got this phone at how well it takes pictures even in low light conditions. The Google image processing does such a great job. I even put this against the iPhone 14 in a comparison video, and then a lot of people like the shots from the 6a as well too. So just absolutely beautiful shots on here. Great color science again, especially with skin tones as well, which was a big thing I think with that video I watched, that for people with darker skin, the iPhones and some of the newer phones, they seem to just not able to get the skin tones right. But I'm telling you guys, these Pixel phones, that's why I always recommend them as some of my favorite phones. They get the skin tone almost just perfect, which is really nice. So the 6a, now while it doesn't have like fancy camera specs, so like for instance, there's no real telephoto lens in here. It does do 2x, but it's really just croppy. And like I said, you can't shoot in 4K 60 on the front, and it doesn't do 1080p 60 video on the front as well too. So it's got its little limits and stuff like that. But as far as like a point and click, I don't think you can get any much better than this. I mean, it literally beat the best flagships: iPhone 14 Pro, S22 Ultra, even the Asus Zen 9 that I really like, even beat that phone as well too. So just very impressive cameras, and I think pretty impressive video, again, considering the price of this phone. You can find well under 300 bucks now, which I think is a pretty good deal. I'll have that link down below. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the display on the Pixel 6a. So this is an area where I think it's just okay. So it's a 6.1 inch OLED display. It is HDR, and it is a 1080p display, and it is 429 for the PPI. A little bit of bezel here, but honestly it's a very nice display. And this phone got a lot of flack for not having a high refresh rate or 90 hertz, which is fine because it is to me it's a fine 60 hertz panel. It's not like jerky or laggy or anything like that, especially with all the updates that it's gotten since the release. It's pretty smooth phone, a pretty smooth screen here. But yes, I would have liked to see at least 90 hertz. But I understand why Google did that. It's because they want to sort of sell you up on the the Pixel 6, that the Pixel 6, Pixel 7, stuff like that. So it's fine. So I think the display is fine. Like I said, flagships like the iPhone 14 don't even have high refresh rate, so it is what it is. But I think the screen itself is fine for looking at content, playing games. It's a high quality OLED display here, so don't have really any issues with it, and it's very easy to one hand as well too, which is something that I really like. The Pixel 6a does have what's really cool is the Google Tensor chip. So this phone has remained pretty fast and pretty fluid. It's got 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM. And you also have on here pretty good gaming performance for the casual gamer. I was able to play PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, Apex. It was able to do a really good job with those games. So again, I have no issues with that. I even ran Fortnite on here as well too, and it did a somewhat decent job as well too. So it does a really good job with performance. So I don't have any issues with that. On here, the Geekbench scores you get is 1051, and then the multi-core 2706. So like I said, I think it does a good job with performance here. And then on top of stock Android, it just sort of flies through animation wise. You don't really see a lot of stutters and a lot of hiccups with this phone. So that's one of the awesome things with this phone, is it has a really nice above average chipset, way better than you would find in something like a Galaxy A53. So definitely really like the chipset. I think for gaming, it's definitely fine for the casual gamer. Now I want to talk about the hardware a little bit. So Google did a really great job with the speakers on the 6A. They sound excellent. So really good speakers, great bass quality, just really punchy sound on here, which is something that I think is really solid. Also, the fingerprint scanner is pretty fast on here. I don't have any issues with it. So it's a fingerprint scanner that you have to sort of apply pressure to. So it kind of reminds me of my V60 a little bit. I think it's an optical fingerprint scanner, is what they call it. And yeah, it's fine. Again, not the fastest, but it's never been to a point where I've actually felt like it was slow or I had like an actual problem with it. You know, once you get used to applying that pressure on it, like I said, when you use like other flagship phones, it's sort of like a light tap like that, but this one you have to apply pressure to it. So, you know, it might be a little annoying at first, but I think once you get used to it, I think it's fine. Also, guys, what I like about these Pixel phones, you have to remember, is that you get first dibs pretty much on software updates. So when Android 14 comes out, this will be one of the first phones to get Android 14, which is nice. So these phones get updates really fast as well too. That's always something appreciated that I like about these Pixel phones. Let's talk about the hardware with this phone, because this is such a really nice looking phone in my opinion. I really do like it. And what's interesting is you would actually think this is glass back here, but this is actually plastic. But at first glance it looks like glass, and it kind of feels like glass as well too. But it definitely is plastic, which to me is fine for a mid-range device. And plus, if you do drop it, it's not gonna shatter like glass would. So I really do like that as well too. And there is an IP rating. There's an IP67 rating on this phone as well too, so you can get it wet. And the sides are metal as well, so it does have that like a nice feel to it. I actually do like the way this feels in the hand. It has its own unique design, of course, with the Pixel, design bar right here where the camera is. And I just think it looks fantastic. It looks like a really nice device. You can't see fingerprints or smudges with this specific color. So absolutely love the design on this phone. And I think lastly, to touch on battery life, this phone does a pretty good job with battery life. My only issue with the battery experience on this phone is the 18-watt charger. It just charges slow to me. Definitely charges slow. It needs to at least be like 25 watts at least. But yeah, this thing just charges kind of slow. And there is no wireless charging on here as well too, of course. So it's got basically a 4,410 milliamp battery. You can easily get 6 hours of screen on time with this phone, pretty easily. So yeah, guys, I really like the Pixel 6a. I think the cameras are phenomenal. Anybody who's looking for a top tier, camera to take stills with, low light, it does great. So it's just absolutely crazy how good the camera is on this phone. So what do you guys think about the 6a? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.